Kanye West stepped out of a black Rolls-Royce Phantom, his boots hitting the pavement with a purpose that silenced the swarm of reporters outside the Shaun Combs Federal Courthouse. The morning air crackled with tension, the sky a heavy gray over a sea of flashing cameras and shouting voices. Kanye, shrouded in a black leather trench coat, his face half hidden beneath a Yeezy baseball cap, ignored the chaos. "Yeah, are you here for Diddy? What's your play?" His eyes fixed on the courthouse doors. Once a brother to Shaun Diddy Combs, Kanye had come not to stand by his side, but to tear down the empire Diddy had built on lies, sex trafficking, racketeering, and prostitution. Today, in this trial of the century, Kanye carried a secret that could unravel it all, a silver USB drive etched with the word truth burning in his pocket. Inside, Diddy sat at the defendant's table, his brown sweater and khaki pants a facade of calm as he faced charges that could end his reign. His pen moved steadily, but his eyes flickered to the courtroom door, sensing a storm. He'd heard the whispers. Kanye was here. The man who'd shared his stages, his secrets, his triumphs, was now a specter of betrayal. 3 months ago, an encrypted message had chilled Diddy's blood. "I know everything, Puff. The truth is coming." Signed KW. As the trial's first witness prepared to speak, Diddy's mind raced. What did Kanye know? And what was he about to do? The courthouse buzzed, a cauldron of anticipation, as hundreds of reporters, fans, and onlookers pressed against barricades, desperate to glimpse the clash of titans. Elizabeth Milner, the crime reporter with a stack of colorful notebooks, scribbled furiously, "Kanye West, ally or avenger." Kanye's mission was clear to him alone: to expose the criminal underworld Diddy had hidden in plain sight. From the LA mansion's arsenal to the videos that silenced the vulnerable. As he strode through the courthouse doors, marshals diverting him to the overflow room, Kanye felt the weight of a war he'd ignited. The stage was set, and the truth was about to ignite a fire that could consume them both. Kanye didn't truly leave the courthouse. After exiting the overflow room, he slipped into a clandestine meeting room on the 3rd floor where prosecutor Marina Comey and 2 federal investigators awaited. Kanye placed a silver USB drive on the table, his eyes resolute. "This is everything you need to take him down," he said, his voice low but unwavering. Inside the USB were years' worth of documents, videos, and recordings Kanye had secretly collected, evidence of Diddy's secret parties, shady deals, and a web of manipulation. Kanye had once been part of that world. He'd attended lavish parties at Diddy's LA mansion, where champagne flowed like rivers and secrets were traded in the dark. But 2 years ago, after a sleepless night in the studio, Kanye decided to change. He could no longer live with the secrets Diddy had dragged him into. Began documenting everything, from late-night phone calls to covert meetings with powerful figures. The USB was the result of Kanye's greatest betrayal, but he believed it was the only way to atone for his past. In the main courtroom, the trial reached a shocking moment. The prosecution played a January 30th, 2023 audio recording of a conversation between Christina Coram, Diddy's trusted assistant, and Jonathan Perez, a staff member at Diddy's LA mansion. The tape revealed a chilling truth. A compromising video involving Jane, a mysterious young woman, had been discovered on a staff iPad. Christina's icy voice echoed through the courtroom, silencing the jury. "Jonathan, walk me through it step by step. Who saw that video? Who was in the house? Don't lie, we can check the cameras." Jonathan, his voice trembling, explained that he'd tried to protect Diddy by suggesting they delete the video, but feared erasing it might cause trouble later. Christina, like a ruthless interrogator, pressed him on whether the chef, housekeeper, or anyone else knew about it. She emphasized that Diddy wanted a thorough investigation to uncover how the video ended up on the staff's iPad. Elizabeth Milner, seated in the press gallery, scribbled furiously, "Christina's voice is cold as ice. She knows more than she's letting on." What Elizabeth didn't know was that Kanye West had provided this tape. During a visit to Diddy's mansion in late 2022, Kanye overheard a conversation between Christina and Diddy about controlling staff and concealing compromising videos. He'd secretly planted a recording device in the meeting room, and this tape was one of his trophies. The tape wasn't just evidence of a single incident, it exposed a network of manipulation within Diddy's organization. Christina, as Diddy's assistant, appeared to be the enforcer of his dark commands, from intimidating staff to hiding evidence. Kanye knew that if this tape went public, it would force the world to ask, what else is Diddy hiding? At the defendant's table, Diddy sat upright, dressed in a brown sweater, white undershirt, and khaki pants, looking more like a successful mogul than a man accused of heinous crimes. He took meticulous notes, whispered to his lawyers, and even flashed a discreet thumbs up under the table to cheer on Mark Agnifilo during cross-examination. He knew Kanye had been at the courthouse that morning, and the presence of his old friend kept him awake for weeks. 2 months earlier, Diddy had received an anonymous text from an unknown number. "I know everything, Puff. Stop before it's too late." Diddy suspected it was Kanye, but had no proof. Now, as Christina's voice filled the courtroom, a chill ran down his spine. He glanced at the door, as if expecting Kanye to burst in with another bombshell. The judge, with a measured tone, declined to reprimand Diddy for minor gestures like nodding or the thumbs up, but warned, "I can't police every reaction, but if this continues, I'll take action." Diddy's lawyer Brian Steele quickly stood, insisting that his client was professional and followed court rules, even avoiding eye contact with the jury as they entered or exited. But Elizabeth, from her vantage point, noticed Diddy gripping his pen tightly, as if struggling to contain his rage. Another shocking moment came with the testimony of Homeland Security Investigations HSI agent Andre Lemon. He detailed the items seized at Diddy's LA mansion: 200 bottles of baby oil, 900 bottles of Astroglide, dozens of manila envelopes marked K containing ketamine, and a red-orange powder resembling paprika but identified as MDMA. But what silenced the courtroom was the arsenal in the security room: Ruger rifles, Smith & Wesson rifles, Glock handguns, 3 30-round magazines, armor-piercing rounds, and a gun safe brimming with weapons. Mark Agnifilo, Diddy's lawyer, tried to downplay the findings, arguing that all weapons were stored in the security room, not scattered throughout the house, and no ammunition was found in the children's bedrooms. He grilled Lemon. "Did you photograph the security room door's condition before police entered?" Lemon admitted. "I don't know," Agnifilo pressed. "Was the gun safe open when you arrived?" Lemon shook his head. "I'm not sure." The defense aimed to suggest the police might have staged the evidence, but the prosecution countered that the sheer volume of weapons and drugs pointed to a criminal enterprise. Kanye, in the secret meeting room, was sharing another document with the prosecutors: a list of guests at Diddy's secret LA mansion parties. The list included Hollywood stars, politicians, and powerful business people, names that could shake Tinseltown if exposed. Kanye recalled a night at the mansion when he overheard Diddy discussing with a shadowy figure the use of weapons to protect interests. That was the moment Kanye knew he had to act. The tension in the Shaun Combs Federal Courthouse was palpable, but Christian Combs, Diddy's eldest son, became an unexpected lightning rod, drawing every eye in the room. As he strode into the courtroom, his black t-shirt blazed with bold red letters: "Free Combs," the words partially veiled by a sheer mesh top that clung to his frame like a second skin. The message was defiant, a public declaration of loyalty to his father, who sat at the defendant's table under the weight of charges that could shatter their family's legacy. Reporters, including Elizabeth Milner, huddled in the press gallery, their whispers a low hum. How is he getting away with this? Just weeks earlier, a spectator wearing a Free Puff sweatshirt had been sternly ordered by a marshal to turn it inside out lest it sway the jury. Yet Christian's shirt remained untouched. The marshal, a burly woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, approached Christian as he settled into his seat. She leaned in, her eyes narrowing as she examined the shirt, her fingers brushing the mesh fabric. The room held its breath, expecting a reprimand. But after a tense moment, she stepped back, her face unreadable, perhaps wary of igniting a media firestorm by confronting Diddy's son. Elizabeth, her pen flying across her 10th notebook, jotted, "Christian's shirt is a gauntlet thrown down, a challenge to the court and the jury." She wondered if Diddy himself had orchestrated this, a calculated move to project strength and rally public support. In the 5th floor overflow room, where the trial unfolded on a flickering screen, Christian sat shoulder to shoulder with Kanye West, the man he'd called Uncle Ye since he was a boy. The room was a claustrophobic box, its air thick with the murmurs of spectators and the hum of the monitor. Christian's hands fidgeted, his knuckles grazing the edge of his seat as he stole glances at Kanye, whose face was a mask of stoic resolve beneath his Yeezy cap. To Christian, Kanye was more than a family friend. He was a mentor, the one who'd taught him to layer beats in the studio, who'd promised to always have his back. But today, Kanye's silence felt like a wall. As the trial feed showed Diddy nodding subtly during Mark Agnifalo's cross-examination, Christian leaned closer to Kanye, his voice a hushed plea. "Dad's fighting for his life, yeah. You see how they're twisting everything. You're here for him, right?" Kanye's jaw tightened, his eyes fixed on the screen where Diddy's brown sweater and khaki pants gave him the air of a beleaguered executive rather than a criminal mastermind. The weight of Christian's trust pressed on Kanye like a stone. He wanted to tell him the truth, that he was here to dismantle Diddy's empire, not save it, but the words caught in his throat. When Kanye rose to leave after just 15 minutes, Christian's hand shot out, grasping Kanye's wrist with a desperation that startled them both. "Stay a bit longer, yeah," he whispered, his voice cracking. "Dad needs you. We need you." Kanye's heart twisted. He saw the boy he'd watched grow up, now a young man caught in a storm not of his making. Kanye's eyes, shadowed with regret, met Christian's. "I can't, Christian," he said softly, his voice barely audible over the room's din. "There are things you don't understand, things I have to do." He gently pried Christian's hand away, each movement heavy with guilt. Christian watched Kanye's retreating figure, his leather trench coat disappearing through the door. A chill settled in his chest, a seed of suspicion taking root. Kanye's cryptic words echoed in his mind, things you don't understand. Had Uncle Ye changed? Was he hiding something? Christian's gaze returned to the screen where his father sat, but his thoughts were elsewhere, replaying every moment with Kanye, searching for clues to a betrayal he couldn't yet name. Elizabeth, later hearing of this exchange from a colleague, noted, "Christian's loyalty is unshaken, but Kanye's departure has cracked something in him." Jane, a figure cloaked in mystery, sent a shockwave through the courtroom that reverberated long after her testimony ended. As she stepped down from the witness stand, her slight frame trembling under the weight of her words, she did the unthinkable. Instead of exiting in silence, she turned to defense attorney Tenny Garagos, a fierce advocate with a reputation for dismantling prosecution cases, and enveloped her in a brief, awkward hug. The courtroom gasped. Then, in a move that stunned even the most seasoned observers, Jane crossed to prosecutor Marina Comey, a steely figure at the prosecution table, and hugged her too, her arms lingering as if seeking solace. The gestures were fleeting but electric, defying the courtroom's rigid decorum. Jane's eyes, which had studiously avoided Diddy's throughout her testimony, remained downcast as she hurried out, leaving a trail of whispers in her wake. Elizabeth Milner, perched in the press gallery, felt her pulse quicken. Her pen scratched furiously. Jane hugged both sides. Reconciliation, desperation, or a coded message. The act was so out of character for a witness who'd seemed cowed, her voice barely rising above a murmur during questioning. Elizabeth wondered if Jane was signaling neutrality, fear, or something deeper, a plea for rescue from a nightmare only she understood. Kanye, watching the scene unfold on a monitor in the third-floor meeting room, felt a surge of protectiveness. He knew Jane, or at least the version of her he'd met 3 years ago at one of Diddy's infamous LA mansion parties. She was then a 22-year-old singer, her voice a blend of raw talent and vulnerability, her eyes bright with dreams of a record deal. Diddy had introduced her to a circle of VIP guests, men in tailored suits with predatory smiles, their hands lingering too long on her arm. Kanye, nursing a drink in the corner, had noticed the fear flickering in Jane's gaze, the way she shrank under Diddy's booming laugh. He'd approached her later, offering a kind word, but she'd only smiled tightly and slipped away. Oh! Months after that night, Kanye heard rumors through industry whispers. Jane had signed with a label tied to Diddy, but her career stalled. Stories surfaced of late-night meetings at the mansion, of videos that ensured her silence. The audio tape played earlier, with Christina Corum's chilling interrogation of Jonathan Perez about a compromising video involving Jane, confirmed Kanye's worst fears. He believed the video was a weapon used to control Jane to keep her tethered to Diddy's world. Kanye had acted on instinct 2 weeks before the trial, tracking Jane down through a mutual contact. In a dimly lit diner, he'd slid a burner phone across the table, his voice urgent. "If you're ready to talk, call me. I'll make sure you're safe." Jane had nodded, her hands shaking, but said nothing. Now, watching her hug both attorneys, Kanye's mind raced. Was she trying to appease both sides, fearing retaliation? Or was this a signal, a way to tell him she was ready to fight? He leaned toward the FBI agent beside him, his voice low. "We need to get to Jane before Diddy does. She knows too much." The agent nodded, but Kanye's stomach churned. Diddy's reach was long, and Jane's safety hung by a thread. Elizabeth, unaware of Kanye's connection, later wrote, "Jane's hugs are a puzzle, fearful submission or a spark of defiance." A quieter, but no less explosive drama simmered beneath the trial's surface, centered on a juror whose integrity was suddenly in question. The prosecution had raised an alarm. The juror, a middle-aged man with a reserved demeanor, claimed to reside in the Bronx, but documents uncovered inconsistencies, possible ties to a Brooklyn address linked to a known associate of Diddy's. The government demanded further questioning, arguing that any deceit could taint the trial. Diddy's defense, led by Brian Steele, pushed back with ferocity, their voices rising in the courtroom's antechamber. Steele argued that interrogating the juror again, he'd already been questioned twice in the judge's chambers, would single him out, risking alienation and skewing deliberations. "This is harassment," Steele declared, his hand slicing the air. "There's no evidence of deceit, only speculation." Diddy, seated at the defendant's table, followed the exchange with a calm that belied his stakes. When the judge asked if he objected to keeping the juror, Diddy raised his hand, his voice clear. I waive. The gesture was almost theatrical, a signal of confidence, but Elizabeth caught the flicker of calculation in his eyes. She noted, Diddy's trust in this juror feels too deliberate, too assured. The judge, striving for impartiality, reserved his ruling, promising to review both sides' arguments. For now, the juror remained, his face impassive in the jury box, scribbling notes as testimony resumed. Kanye, in the secret meeting room, held a piece of the puzzle no one else saw. His silver USB, now in the prosecution's hands, contained a damning audio file. A late-night call between Fahim, Diddy's head of security, and an unidentified man. The conversation, recorded by Kanye's hidden device in Diddy's LA mansion, was cryptic. "The Bronx guy's open to a deal. A little cash, a little pressure. He'll sway the others." Kanye couldn't confirm if the Bronx guy was the juror in question, but the timing was too coincidental. He'd captured the call during a tense night in 2024, when he'd infiltrated a meeting under the guise of discussing a joint music project. Fahim's words had cemented Kanye's resolve to expose Diddy's manipulation. Handing the file to the FBI agents, Kanye's voice was grim. "If Diddy's rigging the jury, this trial's a sham. But if we use this, they'll know I'm the source." The lead agent, a woman with sharp eyes, nodded. "We'll verify it discreetly, but you're walking a tightrope, West." Kanye knew the risk. Exposing jury tampering could void the trial, forcing a mistrial that might give Diddy a chance to regroup. Worse, it would paint a target on Kanye's back. Elizabeth, oblivious to this shadow game, sensed the juror drama was more than it seemed. Is Diddy playing chess with the jury, or is someone else moving the pieces? The trial's lunch recess brought a moment that would echo through history. As marshals led Diddy from the courtroom, his hands cuffed behind his back, Kanye emerged from the third-floor meeting room, his leather trench coat sweeping like a cape. The hallway, lined with reporters and spectators, fell silent, the air thick with anticipation. Cameras flashed, capturing the collision of two titans. Diddy, his brown sweater slightly rumpled, met Kanye's gaze, his smile strained, almost brittle. His voice was a low hiss, audible only to Kanye. "What are you doing, yeah?" "We were brothers. We built this world together." Kanye stepped forward, his boots echoing on the marble floor, his sunglasses now tucked into his pocket, revealing eyes that burned with purpose. The crowd leaned in, sensing a storm. "Brothers don't build empires on blood, Puff," Kanye said, his voice a blade cutting through the hush. "I know everything. The parties where dreams were broken, the videos you used to silence people, the threats to keep your secrets safe. I've got it all, and it's time for the truth to come out." His words were a declaration of war, each syllable landing like a blow. Diddy's face drained of color, his eyes widening for a split second before narrowing into slits. The man who'd faced down music moguls and legal battles now looked cornered, a predator sensing the trap. He opened his mouth, perhaps to retort, but the marshals tightened their grip, pulling him toward the exit. "This ain't over, yeah," Diddy muttered, his voice barely audible as he was hustled away, his head turning to hold Kanye's gaze until the last moment. Kanye stood motionless, his chest rising and falling, the weight of his defiance settling over him. He knew he'd crossed a line from which there was no return. The reporters erupted, shouting questions, but Kanye ignored them, his mind replaying Diddy's final words. Kanye West isn't just a witness, he's the torch igniting Diddy's empire, and he knows it could burn him too. This confrontation would redefine the trial, a moment where loyalty turned to ashes. As the day closed, Kanye left the courthouse, his face bare, no hat, no sunglasses. He wanted the world to see him, a man reborn in truth. In his pocket, the second USB burned like a coal. He knew he'd started a war, one that could consume him. In his cell, Diddy clutched a note from Fahim. "Kanye's list is real. He's untouchable for now." Diddy's laugh was hollow. "Untouchable?" he muttered. "We'll see." The trial was a powder keg, and Kanye's evidence could ignite it. But with a new player lurking, the question loomed. Would Kanye survive to see justice, or become another casualty of Diddy's empire?